Hey guys, welcome to today's quick video on how to find your neutral spine and how to do the perfect plank. When setting up your spine in a neutral position for a core exercise where you're going to resist an external force, rotation, flexion or extension, try to brace for a compound movement such as a squat or a deadlift, we need to consider a few things. First of all, what is a neutral spine? Here we have Luke just standing in his natural posture upright in what I'd call a relatively good posture. Most people's neutral spines contain two curves when you're looking at them from the side. We have a thoracic curve one way, where he's slightly rounded this way. People have varying degrees of this. And then the opposite of that, a lordotic curve the other way. Again, everyone has their own neutral spine and their own spine shape. What we want to do when we're bracing is take this into consideration. So if we were to do a plank, or a bird dog, or a squat, or a deadlift, we want to try and maintain this position as best as possible. So, taking this position into a plank, if we asked Luke just to elevate his elbows up and to where he would hold for a low plank on his elbows, if he was to be planking on his front, as you'll see in a minute, he would still maintain the neutral curve he has, or the two curves, so the thoracic curve one way and the neutral curve the other way. He would have his elbows in line with his shoulders, which would be underneath his shoulders in a plank position. He would keep his lats engaged down here to pull the shoulders away from the ears, which would then encourage more activation through the core in his plank, like so. As we said when Luke was standing, we want to maintain that same neutral spine position. So here we've got Luke pushing actively into the floor through his shoulders to maintain his normal neutral curve through his thoracic. As you can see here, he's tucked his hips slightly, so what I need to do is just try and rotate your bum out a little bit the other way and hold his neutral position there. It's really important here we keep the elbows and the shoulders pulled down towards the feet to keep locked in to your lats and keep the core nice and tight. Luke, can you feel that in your back or your core?
My core.
Okay, awesome. Now we've got Luke into a great plank position, we're going to give you a few tips to optimize your planks and get the most out of your planking or any of your core workouts. Tip number one, imagine you're planking on an ice rink or on ice. A lot of people feel planks fatiguing their shoulders before their core, and the reason for this is because they're trying to take strain out of the core and the lower back by pushing their hands forwards and their feet away. If you imagine you're planking on ice or on a slippery surface, you can't push everything away because you'll slip and you'll fall flat on your face. So you can either think about gently squeezing your elbows down towards your toes or your toes up towards your elbows, or think about maintaining equal pressure straight down into the floor rather than pushing apart or pulling together. Then you get more of a chance to focus in on the core doing the work. Tip number two, we often hear people say in classes or in personal training sessions, tuck your hips or squeeze your glutes if your back hurts, to take the tension out of your lower back. This isn't a great idea because if you tuck your hips underneath, you're going to create a curve in your lower back, which is not healthy and definitely not a good idea for anyone with previous back problems. So we can squeeze the glutes. So at the moment, I'm going to ask Luke to squeeze his glutes, which will support the core, but you'll notice when he squeezes his glute, his lower back doesn't change shape. If I said to Luke, tuck your hips under for me, what we see now is we now lose that neutral curve in the lower back and puts him into that unhealthy position for his spine. So squeeze the glutes, yes, but don't tuck the hips. Tip number three, following on from number two somewhat, if your back hurts, don't try to adjust the position. So as long as you're holding a neutral spine, tucking your hips may stop your back hurting, however, it's encouraging a bad posture. If your back starts to hurt, think of it this way, you're not strong enough to maintain that position for that long or with that intensity. Therefore, if your back's hurting in a full plank after 20 seconds, maybe do sets of 15-second planks, or if you want to do a longer plank, drop your knees down like Luke will now, and just do a half plank from here. So we're regressing, making it an easier exercise until you can hold that neutral curve. A lot of people can hold a 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute plank in an incorrect position with their hips tucked. However, if you want to get strong and bulletproof your back over the long term, then we want to hold that neutral position and progress gradually from either a kneeling plank or a half plank up into a full plank and then beyond. Tip number four, if you can never seem to feel this in your abs, you're unsure if you're setting up correctly to get the best out of your plank workouts, here's a way to do it. Luke, if you start with your elbows on the floor up in kind of a seal stretch position, so tuck your elbows underneath you. From here, what we're going to think about is peeling the body up off the floor just to a half plank on your knees, okay? So Luke, what I want you to do is lift the sternum away from the floor. Before you lift your hips, you're going to think about trying to tuck the front of the pelvis up towards your elbows and then peel slowly up onto your knees, always trying to pull your front of your pelvis up towards your shoulders. I don't know if you can see in the camera here, but Luke's shaking quite a lot already. From here, once you've got that squeezing into your obliques, into your abs, then we can lift the knees up off the floor. And then actually, despite all the rolling, he's still got his neutral curve through his thoracic, he's shaking a hell of a lot, and somewhat of a lumbar curve here. So it's not excessively ended up with tucked hips. He is squeezing his glutes, which is good, but that slow peel up also encourages the gentle pressure towards each other between the toes and the elbows. Finally, with a plank and everything we've gone through, obviously a neutral spine position is key. This is especially important for anyone that has a history of back pain, has a current back injury or any inflammation. The reason we want to hold this neutral spine is it puts the spine in a position of least stress to the joints, to the discs, to the vertebrae. This means that your back is in the best position to recover if it is injured, or the strongest position to absorb or resist forces coming in on your body if you're doing another exercise, whether it's a plank, a row, a deadlift, a squat, and so on.